It is Thursday, September 25th, 2025. I'm meteorologist Brian Shields. We have two systems that are developing. One has already developed. Both of them are likely to become hurricanes. We are now in action mode, and I'll tell you what that means across the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos. Again, taking action to protect life, of course, and property for this area here, sliding up into the Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas. Meanwhile, very heavy rain, parts of Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic for today. We are also now in monitor mode. That is for North and South Carolina. This area here could get very close to the southeast U.S. We're on high alert anywhere from Georgia south through Florida, even up through the rest of the mid-Atlantic and New England, but over toward North Carolina and South Carolina, we are now in monitor mode. I'll cover that. And Bermuda, of course, we are watching things very carefully. Here's the closer look at what's going on right now, and I'm going to cover everything in this video. So again, thank you for your patience and thank you for sharing this information with your community. Subscribe or don't subscribe, I just want to get the right information out. This is going to be a very tricky forecast and the potential of a landfalling hurricane right through here across parts of the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. Really heavier rain. Yesterday, St. Thomas, we got some heavier rain. St. Croix during the day, not as much. That's exactly what we're talking about. Some of our islands dumped on, some of us not a lot, but we're going to see substantial rain again as this first area lifts up toward the northwest, and there is Humberto that is now over the Atlantic. Now this first area that is sitting over Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, this, as it moves into the Bahamas, will be developing on top of the Bahamas, and all of the models eventually have this becoming a hurricane anywhere from the northern Bahamas or up toward the Carolinas at this point. I do expect changes to this forecast, right? Some forecasts are a little bit easier. This one is going to be tricky because we have two systems and they influence each other, right? So watching that. Now, here's the first kind of look at the most likely path of what we're dealing with right now. It's this area of investigation. We're watching over toward Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic and the Turks and Caicos today and tomorrow, right? Then as we go forward, as this lifts right through the Bahamas as a developing system, at the least in the Bahamas, we're going to have a really big rain event and some gustier winds. Then this area will lift toward the northern Bahamas. By Sunday, it should be developing into a tropical storm, maybe even sooner. We'll see. We'll track this together and then kind of lifting to the north, but very close to Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas Monday as a hurricane. Again, this is a low confidence forecast because we have two systems. Now, with two systems out there, they won't combine. You don't get that. Sometimes you get systems that get close to each other and one can take over the other one and just kind of absorb it, or they kind of start to rotate around each other a bit. They do influence the track. That's why there's higher uncertainty. But as of now, there could be a hurricane very close to the southeast U.S. and the northern Bahamas in just a few days, and that's why we need to start taking action. So anywhere from the Turks and Caicos back through the Bahamas, it's better to be safe in a scenario like this, especially something that is so close to home. We are now in action mode. We are making those preparations for a tropical storm or hurricane. Not that we're going to necessarily have a hurricane in the Bahamas, but something is going to be developing basically right on top of us. So with that, we can't take any chances, right? I hope that makes sense. Sometimes that could give us a little more lead time and kind of hold off the action mode, but just because it's going to be developing on top of us, we do need to make some of those at least initial preparations. Northern, central, and southern Bahamas back through the Turks and Caicos. I would hold off on certain things like putting down the shutters or boarding up. Just hold off on kind of that stuff where you're putting nails into your home. Hold off on that, right? We all have different means, and I respect that very much. Care about your means and your livelihood. So again, hold off on some of the stuff, but we now need to start making at least some of those initial preparations because this weekend, especially by Sunday, we could have that developing system right on top of us trying to develop into a tropical storm. North and South Carolina at this point, we are in monitor mode. What does that mean? Well, we're getting close to action mode. I need about another day or two to know because of, again, the uncertainty in the track, but we are reviewing the hurricane plans, and really that's a good idea anywhere from Bermuda up toward New England all the way down through Florida in case this system gets to the closer. And that's been the trend I've been seeing more of a westerly trend, and I'll explain why in just a moment. Here are some of the models showing this first area near the Dominican Republic, moving right through the Bahamas and then very close to the Carolinas, but the overall trend has been shifting back to the west for some of these models. That's why I mentioned high alert in Florida, but we are in monitor mode now in reviewing those hurricane plans and getting ready just in case North and South Carolina and in through here, we are now in action mode, making some of those preparations. I cover everything. I leave some stuff behind the scenes. I'm watching it behind the scenes, try to keep these videos a little bit shorter as a whole, but not this time around. I want to give you everything that I'm seeing. I am watching all of the models, and this here is that Google model, the new kind of taking into account AI, all that stuff, and it is showing what the other models are showing as well, kind of hinting at this area getting closer eventually down the road back toward the Carolinas. This would be that most likely path that I just showed you. Now we'll see. Maybe tomorrow it's over here. Maybe it's over here. We'll track this thing together, and I will track it start to finish. I track storms start to finish. I do not want to leave anybody out, right? All right, so we get a look over time in this area. Since it's over land, basically over Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, not much strengthening. This is a day out, 2 days out, but 3 days out. So as we work our way into Saturday, that's when we're going to start to see a lot of development out of this. Saturday into Sunday, a tropical storm, and then eventually a hurricane as we go out in time. And then we'll wait and see again how this interacts with the system back behind it and some of the land. Now, here's that system back behind it. Here's Humberto. It is a little bit slower. This is, I'm going to try to explain this best I can. If this were to be faster and kind of lift up here quicker, I mentioned how they interact together. That would allow this system, that may actually pull this system away from the coast. That would be a good thing, kind of yanking it out of the Bahamas. They kind of rotate around each other a little bit. So if this one were faster and stronger, that could eventually pull this one away. But as of now, it's trending slower. Since it's a little bit slower, that allows the area out ahead of it to kind of do its own thing and kind of shift a little bit more toward the west. So the trend has not necessarily been good. That's why we're in action mode here and monitor mode right here, because it does look like that first system is going to at least be closer to land, and we know it's going to be developing on top of us in the Bahamas. Here is Humberto, again, a little bit slower, so that's allowing this other area to just really do what it wants at this point. Bermuda, we're going to monitor things very carefully down the road, and even the Northern Caribbean. I want to see how close it gets. Again, the shifts have been not good on both of these, more to the west, so that's what we'll be watching, and over time, Humberto is just going to strengthen, could become a major hurricane in just a few days, and you could see why. The very warm water temperatures, this is the problem. This has been my big concern all season, that if we get anything, even in the Gulf, and we'll be watching this deep into November, back through the Caribbean, near the Bahamas, near the southeast U.S., water temperatures are so very warm. And the bigger issue is the heat content, the absorbed energy in the ocean. It's not just warm at the surface, it is warm down below. So if we get something passing over these areas, it could rapidly intensify, right? And really just kind of feed into these. We saw this with Hurricane Aaron. We saw this with Hurricane Beryl last year. And that is why I'm very concerned, and I want us taking action back through the Bahamas, because we have these red pockets in through here. That's the high ocean heat content. Something could go from nothing to something very quickly. I don't mean that in a scary way. I don't wish a storm on anybody. But that is the uncertainty. The track is hard to forecast. The intensity is even harder. And this area is going to roll right over that very high ocean heat content, in which it could allow it to intensify quickly. But I got you covered here. That is my promise to you. That's why we are starting to make some of the preparations. Hopefully we get a whole lot of just rain and that's it. But we need to make some of those preps. Now, here's a look at the European model, kind of that behind the scenes look at that. High pressure, the blocker is way over here. We have fronts over here. So with the blocker away, that allows things to make their curve. But again, Humberto has slowed up a little bit. That allows this to move back to the west more. This here is as we work our way into Saturday, right on top of us near the Turks and Caicos, central and southern Bahamas, developing, right? Developing into a tropical storm this weekend, and eventually potentially a hurricane Sunday into Monday. But this shows us the uncertainty, kind of the spread in the models. This should all stay, Humberto should stay to the north of the Caribbean, but keeping an eye on that just because that shift back to the west. And then you see here, this is Monday, and this gives us a feel. I mentioned the uncertainty. This could go anywhere from just off the coast of the Carolinas all the way down through Florida, right? In particular, though, things have been looking a little bit more like the Carolinas, at least closer by. Now, I wanted this area to kind of speed up because, as I mentioned, if this were to speed up and be stronger, it could kind of tug this other one around. It's the Fujiwara effect. The things, you get two things spinning. They kind of go around a common center point. I know it's a little complicated, but you get two big systems together. This is not usual for the Atlantic basin like this, but since this one is slower, that allows this one to move back to the west. That is the main point. I know I'm repeating myself, but again, that is some important information to pass along. That westerly trend with this is not good, and that's what I've been seeing over the last 24 hours. We'll see if that holds over the next couple of days. So here's the European model more specifically, right? Watching these fronts, southeast coast of the U.S. Now, this here is by tomorrow. By tomorrow, still the sloppy rain. That's what we're seeing in the Turks and Caicos. We could have tropical storm-like conditions. Turks and Caicos, that's why we're making some of the preparations. The Turks and Caicos, most of the development will be as it's starting to pull away, but we are still in action mode. And there is Humberto, and here we are in the northeastern Caribbean. Then going out in time here, this is Saturday. And you see a lot of rain right over the entirety of the Bahamas, 700 plus islands. All of us are going to see at least some rain. There is Humberto. Here is the front. Since Humberto is now slower, it's not going to tug this away. This is just going to allow to kind of drift up toward the north. So by Sunday, this could be sitting right over the northern Bahamas, Freeport, New Providence, for example, as a tropical storm, maybe a hurricane at that point if it develops very quickly. More likely, though, a tropical storm. That's why we are making those preparations. Then Sunday into Monday, lifting to the north. Very high uncertainty. It could very well go right into Florida, or it could stay off of the coast. I'm not sure. I'll let you know what I know and what I don't know. Because these two are so close together, there could be a lot of changes as these kind of try to rotate around each other a bit. But as we work our way deeper into Monday and Tuesday, this could roll right up into the Carolinas as a powerful hurricane. That is a possibility, but we'll see. We're going to see how this shakes out. A lot of it actually hinges on what's going on with this. The slower this area gets, the bigger problem that this is, anywhere from the Carolinas back through Florida and the Bahamas. So you see that interaction. Now, here's the American model, and it's getting close to what the European model is showing. Kind of some differences in strength, but most of the models are pretty similar right as of now. So here's the spot we're watching with the heavier rain. Here is Humberto. This should become Imelda. That is the next name on the list. Here are these fronts we're watching. So going out in time here with the American model, this is by tomorrow. You can see the heavier rain, the DR, parts of Puerto Rico starting to move away. More so the Turks and Caicos, southern Bahamas with the heavier rain, and then kind of lifting up to the north. The American model has some of the heaviest weather, staying just a little bit more off to the east. That would be a better thing because it is showing this area a little bit closer, which kind of helps tug it. This would be by Saturday, but generally the same thing as the European model, showing this area closer and then lifting up to the north here. So you got two spots that will have developed. Of course, this one, it has already developed. It's going to be a powerful hurricane, but these fronts just kind of giving this a window of opportunity to move up. Bermuda, of course, watching what happens with Humberto. And then as we go from Sunday into Monday, that's when this area from the northern Bahamas could lift right up toward the Carolinas as we get deeper into Monday, potentially as a tropical storm or a powerful hurricane. And then you could see this area here very close to Bermuda, just off toward the southwest. That is Humberto. And then by Tuesday, we would see all of this kind of lifting in, and then we'll be keeping an eye on Humberto. But the trend, again, has all been to the west, and for good reason. I don't just look at the models, I look at the environment. I've been seeing Humberto being a little bit slower. So again, this area here in the Carolinas could very well be closer to Georgia and Florida. That's what we're going to be watching together as we go over the next few days. Here it is on the big picture, how it is all tied together from the Atlantic region of Canada, New England, watching out for a better chance of rain the next few days. This front can act like a blocker, right? If this were strong, that would keep things off the southeast coast of the U.S., but a piece of this kind of works its way through New Brunswick and Newfoundland, and then you kind of got a little bit of a front back through through a little bit of a trough back through the southeast U.S., but that is going to initially help draw this up through the Bahamas. Here's Humberto, here's Bermuda, and then as we work our way out in time, as we get into Saturday, we could see the development of this area on top of or very close to the Bahamas. Again, this is the American model. The European model showing a developing hurricane on top of the Bahamas by the time we get into Sunday. Northern Bahamas at that point. This is Sunday, showing this area here lifting up toward the Carolinas. There is Bermuda, watching Humberto just to the south. And then this area, as we work our way deeper into Monday, would be very close to North or South Carolina as it stands now, with Humberto sitting just offshore, very close to Humberto, or very close to Bermuda, hopefully just off to the west. And then you see this area pulling into the Carolinas, Humberto kind of up and around Bermuda, but this could be a powerful hurricane at this point near the Carolinas. We're going to have to wait and see a bit. This is a very complex forecast with two areas near each other. Now, way the heck out there, I did want to show you this right here. This is Gabrielle. Again, Gabrielle itself, that is going to be working its way through the Azores for tonight and early tomorrow with some hurricane conditions. Now, here's a closer look at what we're seeing back through the Caribbean to try to cover everyone. Not as much rain, Central America, Costa Rica, Panama, watching out for some areas of rain, but this is the heavier stuff. The Dominican Republic coming out of Puerto Rico, working into the Turks and Caicos. You see it right here. And there is the spot we're watching Humberto, but here's the heavier rain. Again, since it's sitting over land, not developing yet, but the rain, the dangerous rivers, the mudslides, that's the biggest threat. And then as we work our way into Saturday, this lifts up through the Bahamas. That's when we're going to start to see some development as it sits over the warm water. And I mentioned the high heat content, the warm, deep water. It's going to be sitting there as this lifts to the north, still seeing some of the rain and storms filtering to Haiti and the DR, and scattered areas of rain eastern Cuba back through Jamaica. So we have Humberto that is now out there. Of course, Gabrielle that I just showed you headed toward the Azores. Imelda, that is the next name on the list. So if that area that's working its way toward the Bahamas does develop into a tropical storm and then potentially eventually a hurricane, Imelda is the next name on the list, then Jerry and Karen after that. Now you can see how the seas are going to build with both of these spots. No doubt the water is going to be so very dangerous. Regardless of how strong this area gets, we're going to be seeing those swells working right through the Bahamas, up through the southeast U.S. Beach erosion will be a high likelihood, especially as this area gets stronger. This here is by Sunday, and you see both spots with the enormous wave heights. This is meters, feet on the right-hand side of your screen, and you see those just very high and dangerous seas as we work our way from Sunday into Monday. So watching the rain carefully, we'll see how much of this works through the Bahamas, but we could see some spots easily over 20 centimeters of rain or 8 inches of rain anywhere from the Turks and Caicos back through the Bahamas. We'll be watching it together island by island as we go forward. In the short term, scattered areas of rain. Cayman Islands, a little bit more so Jamaica and Cuba, and a lot more so Haiti, the Dominican Republic, and trying to leave Puerto Rico, but still in through here, through the Turks and Caicos, some of the totals upwards of 8 inches of rain or 20 centimeters of rain. Watching the flooding, a high chance of that. Spotty showers and storms anywhere from Anguilla south through Dominica, St. Lucia, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, kind of hit or miss. If we get a shower or thunderstorm, 25 millimeters of rain or an inch of rain possible. Suriname, Guyana, Venezuela, a little bit more again, parts of Costa Rica and Panama where we'll get some totals of 150 millimeters of rain or 6 inches of rain the next few days. And then keeping an eye on western sections of Mexico with a lot of tropical moisture around and that higher chance of flooding. Texas, South Texas, better chance of rain. The Gulf Coast getting a bit more active with these fronts moving by, and of course, long way to go in the hurricane season. We'll be watching that very warm water just sitting there untouched in the Gulf. So Jamaica, our rain chance is going to bump up by Saturday. We're up to about a 70% chance, a 30% chance in the Cayman Islands today, and a 40% chance by tomorrow. Trinidad and Tobago will be up to about a 50% chance by the time we get into Saturday. 30% chance holding the next few days in Barbados, a 30% chance over the next 2 days in St. Lucia, 20 to 30% chance in Grenada, a little bit higher by Saturday. Rain chance the next 2 days, St. Vincent and the Grenadines at 30%. Isolated today in Martinique, up to a 40% chance on Saturday. Isolated passing shower or thunderstorm possible in Dominica. Guadeloupe, a little bit of a higher chance. We're at a 40% chance over the next 3. And then as we work our way through Antigua, Barbuda, spotty showers possible today, running at about a 40% chance. A 40% chance as well today. St. Kitts and Nevis, Montserrat, most of the energy with that developing system has moved off to the west. Anguilla, still about a 50% chance. And even St. Bart's down to a 30% chance for tomorrow, 30 to 40% chance St. Martin, Sabin Station. Now Puerto Rico, some of this already happened from overnight. Still watching heavier rain, western and better chance of rain as this area starts to work away. And as it moves away, we could still see some moisture around parts of the U.S. and British Virgin Islands as we go throughout the day. But all eyes in the Bahamas on what could be developing on top of us. We are in action mode. We are now making some of those hurricane preps. Same thing in the Turks and Caicos, at the least in the Turks and Caicos. That rain chance is going to be very high. That flood potential tomorrow into Saturday. The Dominican Republic, mudslides, very dangerous rivers. I've been giving you the heads up on that for days. Some of that as well, parts of Haiti, looking at a 70% chance of some heavier rain. Watch out for the mud and rock slides. That will be a potential. Belize, we're just going to have some isolated showers and storms. Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire, rain chance holding at about 20% over the next 3. 30% chance of a shower today in Guyana, 50% chance for tomorrow, and a 40% chance of a passing shower in northern and central zones of Suriname. Cuba, rain chance holding at 40%, mainly eastern end, and you see the rain chance parts of Costa Rica, Panama staying on the elevated side. A 40% chance the next 2 days in Nicaragua, a 30% chance the next 2 days in Honduras, up to a 40% chance by Saturday, and then building some again, Guatemala and El Salvador, areas of rain around. Mexico City, 50 to 60% chance of rain. Yucatan Peninsula, Merida back through Cozumel, about a 30 to 40% chance. 60% chance today in northern Colombia, running at about a 40% chance the next 2 days in parts of Venezuela. And Bermuda, mainly dry, but all eyes on Humberto out there. That could be a bit closer by the time we get into early next week. So heavy rain, floods, parts of Puerto Rico leaving, more so the Dominican Republic. Action mode now, Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos. Monitor mode, North and South Carolina, the entirety of the east coast of the U.S. We are on high alert watching this very kind of unusual system with the 2 nearby. We're on high alert to see how close this gets. So watching that in particular, the southeast U.S. and watching Bermuda. The next name on the list is Imelda. So again, thank you for being part of this weather community. I'm working nonstop behind the scenes, watching this for you. If there's any changes, I will let you know right away. I'll be going through your comments throughout the day. Have a good and safe day ahead.